What's up everyone, Andrew Lewis here, welcome to my channel, and today I'm bringing you a video about impact, arguably the most important thing in the golf swing. And so I am going to walk you through some changes I made with a competitive junior I've been seeing and how I really think it can help your game. So if you haven't, please subscribe, drop a comment, and enjoy this video. Okay, so let's start with this video on the left, and let's begin with talking about what he was seeing. So heading into the session, we were seeing some fat contact and some pulls. And so when we look at address, the first thing that was a little bit alarming to me was that his ball position was this far back. So this is an 8-iron. We can see that that is, pretty far behind the middle of his stance, which I would say in general for an 8-iron, especially if someone's trying to draw it. Their ball position is going to be in the middle to slightly forward. So that was a little bit odd. It has been very, very windy down here in Dallas. So one thing that I notice a lot with players is that they'll definitely start to move their ball, slightly back in the stance the more windy it is, because you're basically hitting, 3/4 punch shots, it seems like a lot. So that was number one. And then, secondly, this is our second session together. And so during our first session, which you can see the link to here, we didn't talk much about the form. It was more about changing the ball flight as easily as possible. But now we're kind of jumping into the form. So let's play this video out. And so the first thing that is a little alarming from a form perspective is how little hinge there is on the backswing. And so if we kind of isolate this lead arm position, you can see here that there's very, very little wrist hinge. And so what's going to be the consequence of that would be very, very wide on the downswing, very shallow, and potentially hitting it fat and left. So if we kind of continue playing this out, you can see even there, plenty of turn, probably an excessive amount of turn, but still no real wrist hinge here at the top of the backswing. Now that doesn't mean on the downswing he's not going to load the shaft. Of course he is a little bit. You can see there now the lead arm's parallel again, and now he has that kind of L position that you would traditionally see. Now I would still say that's a little bit under hinge on the downswing. So how does it relate to the fats and the lefts? So as we play this video out, I think this is where you're really going to get a lot of value. Is number one is we really don't want to see any daylight in the swing. And what I mean by daylight is if you look between his right thigh and his hands, we can see in between those two pieces, we can see the grass behind him. So in general, when you look at really good iron players like Colin Morikawa, John Rahm, or Jordan Spieth, their hands at this position are pretty much in between their knees, and then at impact, their hands are basically off their lead thigh. And so as we kind of play this out a little bit, what we're going to see is that, his hands are kind of off of his trail thigh. And so that's going to make the ball go left. You're probably going to hit some fat. You might hit a little bit high. The one thing that he's doing in his swing to kind of prevent not hitting it fat, I'll draw this circle here, and I'm going to draw a line off of kind of his left hip, is he has a lot of like lateral shift. So he's moving really, really towards the target really well. Very much like Scotty Scheffler, like lots of movement to his lead side. Now, if we can couple that with feeling a little bit more handle lead or lag on the downswing, then likely those fats are going to go away. And so this video on the right is using the swing guide, which I will put a link to the swing guide in the video notes. And you can see we have a stick here where I basically just moved his ball position into the middle of his stance. Anytime you're making a setup change, you could go full out and make the full change. I just said for right now, let's leave it in the middle. If we want to move it a little bit more forward, that's fine. It's going to encourage him to hit the ground later the more forward it is. And then we got the swing guide on there. You'll make note that the swing guide is slightly to the right of center just because his grip is a little bit on the strong side, and that's totally fine. So let's play this video out. And really the first thing that I told him was I wanted him at this position to be getting the swing guide on his lead arm. And you can see here, this is a rep that we were doing slow. So he's kind of watching it. It's totally fine. Here's that L position. So now it's starting to match a little bit more to kind of what we were hoping it would look like. Because cosmetically, we want to see this kind of manifest itself, because that's going to lead to more shaft lean, more lag, his hands more in front of himself on the downswing, which we'll see here in a second. So you can see as he goes back, the club head is much, much further with a shorter arm swing. We have a nice relationship between the lead arm and the club now that's well below 90 degrees. And really what the moneymaker is as he goes down, when we get to the same position, right here. So there's that same position. If I go back to the previous video, what you're going to see is at that same position right there, his hands are much, much more in front. I didn't tell him to not feel any lateral. I think when you just focus on getting your arms back in front, that's just kind of a natural position you'll get in. And so from here, he's definitely going to have a lot more shaft lean right there. And I would say this rep was at 70%. Plenty of speed. This isn't doing something so slow that he can't hit a shot and it's not realistic. So now, as we look at this impact position, you can see his handle lead is really, really far forward, which is going to lead to a steeper strike, meaning he's not going to hit the ground early. And that's going to help the ball go less left. Because the more handle lead you have, the more the ball is going to generally come out right. If we were to kind of play this out, here's his shaft position. Not the best line, but you can see it's a much, much different position. And so let's hop over to the adjusted swing with the swing guide at full speed. Okay, so the video on the right now would be at the end of our session going full speed with the swing guide on. So let's go ahead and play this out and just kind of see where we are. So we can see doing the drill, it was obviously a little bit better. But if we look relative to the beginning of this swing, there's probably 50% more hinge. So we're well on our way to making, the changes that we want to make. And I think the really encouraging thing is at the top of the backswing, I love to see this position where that lead arm is basically right where we want it, kind of pointing right at the ground, and then the club is literally 90 degrees. It's not past parallel very much. It's right there. And again, if we go to earlier, it's right there. Now, this guy swings very, very fast. His 8-iron is at 101 miles an hour. And actually, I told him he's probably going to see some speed gains just because that club head is traveling further. The further that this club head goes, most likely that's going to gain some speed. So let's clean this up and play this out here. So as we go down, and this is very encouraging. So at this position here, again, I'm just showing you all this because it's really important to be able to prove it on video. I think the reason that a lot of people struggle day to day is that they feel these things, but they don't necessarily look any different on video. If he actually looks like this on video, those fats are definitely going to go away. So now we can see that this is much, much less than a 90-degree angle. We don't really want to see an L at this position. If we see an L at this position, that you could argue that's a little bit too wide or too shallow, and you're probably going to have some fats. And just really hit it high. I mean, a lot of people struggle hitting the ball too high because they don't have any shaft lean. And so this is going to really get the hands at a much better spot. So there's that same position. Again, it's not as good as when he was doing it slower, obviously, as you add speed, but that is a lot different position. You can see there's a little bit more load in the shaft and the wrist, and then his hands are just a little bit more towards the target this way versus being back this way in the previous video. Let's clean this up again and go to impact. And there we go. I would say that is a very cosmetically pleasing position. You can see at this spot, his hands are still in front, plenty of shaft lean. And this ball actually started right and drew. You can see we have the draw gate on the ground there. My only concern anytime I tell someone to hit the ground later is they start swinging left, because that's an easy way for someone to hit the ground later. So I kept and if you check out our first video, that was basically switching from a fade to a draw. So maintaining that, again, external feedback is always good. We've got the balls, we've got the stick, we've got the swing guide, and he's thinking about these things, but we have these other things, these training aids that are supporting these ideas. So if we play this other one out, you see it's really, really big differences. And these are the kind of differences you need to be seeing when you're having range sessions or lessons. Like, you should be saying to your coach, like, hey, show me the difference in these videos. Because I can promise you, if he would have left looking like the golfer on the left, he would not hit it any differently. And so now that he looks a little bit more like this, I think those fats and those lefts are going to go away. So my encouragement to you is that when you go to the range, you got to be videoing both angles, down the line and face on. And then as best you can, correlate what you're seeing on video with what the ball is doing. So clearly here, the more shaft lean, he's hitting the ground later, and it's not going to go as left. So hopefully you found this video helpful. I would encourage you to check out the swing guide if this is something that you need as far as loading the wrist. It's also great for club face alignment. Drop a comment, subscribe if you haven't, and best of luck next time you're headed to the range.